The Philadelphia Eagles just got hit with a wave of unexpected news that might shake up their entire season. And yeah, we're talking about something that could go far beyond just a simple mid-season bump in the road. Because when a veteran edge rusher suddenly decides to retire, just a month after joining the team, and you're already struggling to get pressure off the edge, that's not something you can just brush off. Zadarius Smith deciding to walk away from the game out of nowhere? That doesn't just leave a hole in the depth chart. It creates a ripple effect, one that could push the front office into full-blown action before the trade deadline hits. And if there's one thing we know about Howie Roseman, it's that he doesn't sit back when the team is in trouble. He gets aggressive. But the question now is, how aggressive is he willing to get? Let's back things up for a second. This Eagles team, they're not exactly riding high at the moment. 2 straight losses, including a flat-out embarrassing performance against the Giants, have fans and analysts starting to draw some eerily familiar parallels. Some people are already throwing it back to the post-Super Bowl hangover of 2018. Others are flashing back to just last season, when the team went from 10 wins and 1 loss to a late-season collapse. And while I wouldn't go as far as saying this year's team is doomed in the same way, it's definitely not feeling great right now. But what's not up for debate is that the Eagles have had real problems getting consistent production from their edge rushers. That's been obvious all season. And somehow, even with the lack of production, Zadarius Smith still managed to lead that group in sacks with, wait for it, 1.5. Not exactly dominant numbers, but considering nobody else was really stepping up, Smith was still the most productive guy they had on the edge. So now that he's gone, yeah, this just turned into a much bigger issue than it already was. What's wild is that this retirement didn't come with any warning. Smith took to Instagram early Monday and just dropped the bomb. He's stepping away from the NFL to move on to the next phase of his life. And look, nobody's going to bash a player for putting their personal life and well-being first, especially not when we don't know all the details. But it does make you question what changed so quickly. This is the same guy who, just a few weeks ago, was saying he had plenty left in the tank. Literally went on record laughing off the idea of retirement. And now he's gone. Done. Just like that. The timing is brutal. The Eagles are now down to just 4 healthy edge rushers heading into a game against the Vikings. None of them, and I mean none, have shown they can consistently win off the edge. Guys like Josh Sweat and Patrick Johnson have flashed here and there, but the overall production just isn't where it needs to be. And while the coaching staff is saying all the right things publicly, talking about confidence in their group, praising young players, trying to keep morale high, behind the scenes, they've got to be scrambling. Because no matter how optimistic the messaging sounds, the reality is this team just lost their most productive edge rusher in the middle of a crisis. That's not a small loss. And now, all eyes are on Howie Roseman. Because if there's ever been a time for him to make a splash, it's now. Even before Smith retired, there were whispers that the Eagles were sniffing around the trade market for defensive help, specifically on the edge. But now, it feels more like a guarantee. Something's got to give. They can't go into the back half of the season with the current group and just hope someone steps up. That's not how championship teams operate. And the window to act is shrinking fast. So who could they target? Well, the list of potential options is actually pretty intriguing. You've got names floating around like Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins, who despite a slow start this season, has shown real pass rush upside in years past. He's young, athletic, and in the final year of his rookie deal, which could make him a bit more attainable. But if Miami's thinking long-term, they might want to hold on to him. Then there's Bradley Chubb, also from Miami. He'd be a more expensive get, both financially and in terms of trade compensation, but he's a proven producer when healthy. The only question with Chubb is whether he's worth the risk, especially considering his age, his injury history, and that fat contract. But maybe the most talked about name is Trey Hendrickson. He's been linked to the Eagles in rumors since the offseason, and now with the Bengals struggling and Hendrickson on the final year of his deal, there's a real possibility that Cincinnati could look to get some value back before he hits free agency. He wouldn't be a long-term piece, more of a one-year rental. But if Roseman sees a chance to patch this pass rush and make a run, that could be exactly the kind of move he makes. It won't be cheap, though, especially with the Eagles already dealing with some tight cap situations heading into next year. Other names like Jermaine Johnson from the Jets and Cam Jordan from the Saints have also been floated. Johnson is younger, talented, and under team control, but it would take a serious offer to pry him away. The Jets are reportedly only listening to offers, and that might be more than Philly's willing to give. Cam Jordan, on the other hand, is a veteran with plenty of experience, but he's also 36 years old and clearly nearing the end of the road. Would he be a short-term solution? Maybe. But is he a game-changer at this point in his career? That's the bigger question. Then there are the budget-friendly options, guys like Arden Key from Tennessee or Kingsley Enagbare from Green Bay. They're not stars, but they've shown enough in recent years to be effective rotational players. And for a team just looking for anyone, who can get some pressure off the edge, they might be worth a flyer. Especially if Howie doesn't want to mortgage the future to patch a short-term hole. But whoever it is, the Eagles have to do something. Standing pat at this point would be close to malpractice. The defense already has holes, and the longer they go without addressing this edge rusher situation, the more it could cost them down the stretch. And just to be clear, the D-line is still the heartbeat of this team, or at least it should be. But right now, that unit is looking exhausted. Mentally, physically, emotionally, they look drained. And some of that probably goes back to last season. This is a group that played deep into February, didn't get much of a break, and now they're being asked to do it all over again. That wear and tear is real. It adds up, especially when the offense isn't holding up its end of the bargain. And speaking of the offense, yeah, we've got to talk about that too. Because as bad as the defense has looked at times, the offense might be even more concerning. Execution is off, play calling is stale, and the predictability? It's becoming a real issue. Like, we're talking about third downs where the route concepts are basically mirrored on both sides of the field. No creativity, no disguise, no complexity. That kind of stuff just doesn't cut it in today's NFL. Especially not when defenses are studying tape and catching onto your tendencies. And when you're facing a defense like the Giants, not exactly a top-tier unit, and they're sitting on every route before the ball is even snapped, that's a huge red flag. So yeah, the Eagles are at a real crossroads here. Between Zadarius Smith's surprise exit, the lack of edge production, the offensive struggles, and the uncertainty heading into a matchup against a scrappy Vikings team, there's a lot hanging in the balance. But if there's one silver lining, it's that Howie Roseman has been in this kind of spot before. And more often than not, he finds a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat. The only question now is, can he do it again before it's too late? Now, while the defensive front is clearly the biggest fire burning in Philly right now, the situation in the secondary might be just as pressing, and maybe, just maybe, there's a reunion on the horizon that could patch up some of that. Because as if on cue, the name C.J. Gardner-Johnson is once again circling the rumor mill, and this time, there might be a little more substance behind it. The guy was just released from the Ravens practice squad in what was called a mutual decision, and on the very same day, the Eagles conveniently opened up a spot on their own practice squad by releasing running back Audric Estime. Coincidence? Maybe. But let's be real, nothing in this league happens by accident. Especially not when a fan favorite, a vocal leader, and a proven playmaker at a position of need just happens to be available. And honestly, it's hard not to imagine how much of a difference Gardner-Johnson could make right now. The defense has lacked that attitude, that edge, that intensity he brought when he was in Philly before. It's not even just about the numbers or the stats. It's about presence. And this team has looked soft the past couple of weeks, plain and simple. That edge they had during the Super Bowl run? It's just not there right now. The tackling looks half-hearted. The communication in the secondary has been a mess. And say what you want about Gardner-Johnson, but when he was in that locker room, things looked different. And let's not forget, every time he's been on an Eagles roster, the team has made a Super Bowl run. That's not a coincidence. The big question, of course, is why he left in the first place. The trade back in March caught everyone off guard. There was no real explanation, no public fallout, no obvious contract dispute. Just gone. So you do have to wonder whether the front office or coaching staff would even want him back. Maybe bridges were burned behind closed doors. Or maybe they just saw him as expendable at the time. But with the way the secondary has performed lately, with how lost the back end has looked, especially against good route runners and tight ends over the middle, bringing back a guy who already knows the system, knows the culture, and brings instant fire, it might be too obvious to ignore. Now, while all this is playing out, we also have to talk about the offense, again, because even with all the issues on defense, the offense might still be the bigger long-term concern. After the Giants game, it became painfully clear that this unit isn't just underperforming, it's stale, predictable, lacking juice. The route trees, the play sequencing, the way they're attacking the field. It's all just so easy to diagnose. Defenses don't even have to disguise much anymore. They know exactly what's coming. And when you've got that much talent, weapons like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts, and you're still struggling to move the chains, that's a scheme issue. That's play calling. That's preparation. To make matters worse, offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo hasn't exactly inspired confidence with how he's handled press conferences. There's a lot of dancing around questions, avoiding direct answers, and just generally not owning the moment. Fans are frustrated. The media is pressing harder. And whether it's fair or not, the spotlight is absolutely on him now. He doesn't need to give perfect answers at the mic. He needs to show results on the field. Because if the Eagles come out flat again, especially after this mini-bye week, it's going to get ugly real fast. And let's be honest, this team needs to be a whole lot better on early downs. That's where it starts. The inefficiency on first and second down is absolutely killing their rhythm. Whether it's running into stacked boxes, calling low-percentage passes, or just poor execution, it's putting Jalen Hurts and this offense behind the sticks far too often. And when they get to third down, the whole stadium knows what's coming. Mirrored routes, short outs, verticals on the outside, over and over again. That's not game planning. That's autopilot. And when a guy like Brian Baldinger can break it down in 10 seconds and predict what you're about to call, that's a massive issue. At this point, it's not just about fixing a few plays here and there. It's about overhauling the way this offense operates. That doesn't necessarily mean firing people, but it means being honest about what's not working and having the guts to change it. Because this isn't a rebuilding team. This isn't a group looking to develop over time. This is a win-now roster. And win-now rosters don't have time for patience when the offense looks this broken. They need urgency. They need accountability. And above all else, they need a spark. Looking ahead to Sunday's game, there's one more wild card to keep in mind, and that's the Vikings quarterback situation. This could go one of two very different ways depending on who ends up under center. If J.J. McCarthy is cleared and back to full health, Minnesota might want to get him back out there to keep developing their supposed quarterback of the future. But if Carson Wentz is good to go and they feel like he gives them the best chance to win right now, then the Eagles could be facing a very familiar face. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments, and let's talk birds. Saquon Barkley has reportedly lost his patience, and the buzz around the NFL is electric. Sources close to the running back suggest that his latest comments about the Philadelphia Eagles caught even his own teammates off guard. The normally composed star appeared frustrated in a team meeting earlier this week, and insiders say his words were blunt, unfiltered, and shocking for those who have known him as a quiet leader in the locker room. According to sources, Barkley didn't hold back when discussing the Eagles, a team he will face multiple times in the coming season. He allegedly expressed disbelief at the way their front seven has been able to neutralize elite running backs, going as far as to question their defensive schemes and mindset. One teammate reportedly described Barkley's tone as intense, like he was daring them to try and stop him, while others were taken aback by his candid criticism of an opponent so early in the season. The ripple effect in the locker room is already noticeable. Some players are reportedly inspired, viewing Barkley's fiery statements as a call to action, a signal that he is ready to dominate and expects the same from everyone around him. Others, however, are concerned that such public frustration could put a target on his back, not only from rival defenses, but also from media narratives that thrive on controversy. Barkley's comments have fueled speculation about his mindset heading into the season. Is this the prelude to a breakout year, a message to both fans and foes that he will not be contained? Or could it indicate growing tension within his own squad, as the veteran running back wrestles with expectations that are higher than ever? Analysts are divided, but one thing is clear. Barkley's words have created a stir that won't die down anytime soon. As the Eagles game approaches, all eyes will be on him. Will Barkley back up his bold statements with jaw-dropping performances, or will the pressure weigh on him? One thing's for sure, whatever happens, the NFL rumor mill is already spinning, and Saquon Barkley is at the center of the storm. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.